In recent years, Tommy Robinson has become one of the most widely discussed figures in British political and media circles. For many, he is a controversial activist; for others, a symbol of resistance against institutional and media power. However, there is a little-known story that reveals a deliberate, coordinated, and systematic effort to destroy his reputation, using methods that, in any functioning democracy, should be considered nothing short of scandalous. Before we continue, hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Tommy Robinson explains that this story begins with a prison sentence. He was given 13 months in jail for filming outside a courthouse while reporting on an ongoing trial, a harsh punishment that was already controversial at the time. But upon his release, he uncovered something even more disturbing. His laptop still had open email sessions from 2 former employees. And that's when everything began to make sense. As he sifted through the emails, Robinson discovered that one of those former staff members was in contact with an organization called Hope Not Hate, a far-left activist group known for targeting prominent conservative voices. This group, partially funded by George Soros, aims to track and discredit anyone deemed influential within movements that challenge the dominant progressive narrative. They don't do this through public debate or legal action, but rather through digital harassment, smear campaigns, and personal and professional pressure. What was most alarming was that this individual, while still working for Robinson and also collaborating with figures like Alex Jones and Lawrence Southern, was receiving money and travel expenses from Hope Not Hate in exchange for internal information. And he wasn't the only one. At the time, Panorama, the BBC's flagship investigative program, was producing an episode dedicated entirely to discrediting Robinson. At that point, Tommy decided to act. Aware of the power wielded by mainstream media, he launched his own investigation. He produced an independent documentary in which he exposed, through hidden cameras, how a coordinated campaign was being engineered to destroy his image. He sent a colleague with a covert microphone to meet with the Panorama team. The key BBC figure behind the project was John Sweeney, one of the most recognizable faces in British journalism. What was captured during that undercover operation was shocking. Sweeney openly admitted that the plan was to create a sexual narrative to discredit Robinson, even saying they would portray him as the next Harvey Weinstein. The recordings revealed how testimonies were manipulated, statements edited, and incentives offered to produce accounts that matched the intended storyline. The method was clear. First, Hope Not Hate would pay former employees or people who had fallen out with Robinson. They were told exactly what to say. Then the BBC would step in, using this pre-packaged evidence as the basis for what appeared to be serious journalism. No facts were checked. No opposing views were considered. It was a political operation dressed up as investigative reporting. One of the most revealing moments came when a former employee, who, according to Robinson, openly disliked him, decided to confess that the BBC had asked her to lie. Together, she and Robinson used a website that creates fake text messages to fabricate a threatening message supposedly sent by him. The text read, "If you work with Panorama, I'll bury you, bitch." They wanted to see whether the journalists would verify the authenticity of the message. They didn't. Shortly after, a formal meeting was arranged with the Panorama team. Robinson set up cameras, installed a screen, and invited them to his own location. During the meeting, he confronted John Sweeney directly with all the evidence. Sweeney denied manipulating testimony until Robinson asked him to look at the screen and played the video where Sweeney could be heard doing exactly that. The footage showed him instructing witnesses on what to say. The reaction from the BBC producers in the room was telling, heads in hands, visibly aware of the severity of what they were witnessing. Later, it emerged that 2 of Robinson's former employees had been blackmailed. After losing their jobs with rebel media, they had agreed to work with far-left groups. But then they were threatened. If they didn't actively help take Robinson down, their involvement in the operation would be exposed. The threats included police involvement and the release of sensitive material. In the words of one of them, "They are forcing us to help destroy you." This is a textbook example of what some have come to call the UK's deep state, networks of influence operating outside of institutional oversight, using NGOs, journalists, and political connections to pursue ideological goals without judicial scrutiny or public accountability. In this context, Hope Not Hate doesn't operate as a simple activist group. It acts as an extension of the establishment itself. After collecting all this evidence, Robinson tried to take the story to the mainstream press. A journalist from the Times, Stephen Bird, agreed to interview him. After seeing the footage, he admitted it was a major expose. But the next day, his editor forbade him from publishing it. With no other option, Robinson rented the largest screen in the country and projected the documentary directly outside the BBC's headquarters. He also uploaded the video online, where it gained millions of views within hours. The response was swift. Robinson was banned from all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. His name was effectively censored. Sharing any content related to him became grounds for removal. As further retaliation, the government reopened the case for which he had already served time and sent him back to prison. All of this took place in 2018. Since then, the documentary has been effectively buried. The BBC never aired the Panorama episode. John Sweeney was suspended and quietly let go, without any press coverage. To this day, he still appears occasionally in media outlets, as if nothing ever happened. Robinson's documentary doesn't just expose an effort to sabotage one man's reputation. It raises deep questions about freedom of speech, the use of public funds for ideological campaigns, and the current state of journalism in the UK. When someone as controversial as Robinson becomes the target of a coordinated smear campaign involving paid witnesses, fake evidence, and media complicity, what assurance do we have that other stories haven't been manipulated in the same way? If this could happen to him, how many other public figures have been targeted in similar operations? How many news stories we consume daily are built on ideological agendas or institutional vendettas? This story, despite the censorship, lives on in the digital archives. The evidence exists, and it makes one thing painfully clear: when the system feels threatened, it will use every tool at its disposal, legal or not, to neutralize those it deems dangerous. In Tommy Robinson's case, they tried everything, but he managed to turn the attack around and expose how the defenders of truth really operate. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you believe this kind of manipulation is an isolated incident or part of a broader pattern? How much can we really trust the media when political agendas are at play? Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and don't forget to like the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.